Hey everybody, this is Ken Adelglass with another video. This is a YMCA video. For the date, let me check and see what date that was. That would have been October 7th. And on October 7th we started our cat and mouse game once again, but just keeping in mind the X and Y axis that we learned the previous lesson. So we're going to go ahead and get started and get us up to where we ended on the 7th, and when we have the class on Wednesday we will have we'll continue this. So I'm going to first I'm in Scratch and we're going to start creating our game. I'm going to get rid of my cat, so I'm going to point to my sprite right here, my cat sprite. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to hit delete. And now, since this is a top-down game, I want characters that can move up, down, left, and right, and have it look sort of natural. And in the tradition of those classic games like Frogger, we want to be able to move in all directions. So I'm going to choose a couple sprites here. So I'm going to go here to New Sprite, and I'm going to click this icon, Choose Sprite from Library. And I'm going to scroll down in just a second. My images are still loading. If you ever run into this and it's a little slow, it's because the images are still loading, and that's normal. Once they load and you're using Scratch for a little bit, it'll speed up. So I want this cat. This cat can, if you notice, you're looking down on the cat, and you could turn the cat in all directions, which is nice. We'll do that in a second. So I'm going to say I clicked on cat 2. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm just going to move him down here for now. And I'm also going to choose, actually the cat is the enemy. It's the mouse that's going to be the main character. So I'm again going to go here and I'm going to look for my mouse, which is down here in the M's. And where is that mouse? There it is, right here, mouse 1. I'm going to click that. And lastly, I'm going to hit New Sprite again and choose the Cheesy Puffs, which is easier to find. They're right here, and we'll hit OK. So there's my Cheesy Puffs, my cat, and my mouse. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to shrink my mouse down by going up here to my little shrink tool. You click it once and you'll see I have those 4 arrows pointing in, and I'm going to click a few times on the mouse, make them about that small. I'm going to click the shrink again, go to my cat, make the cat a little smaller, and I'll go to the Cheesy Puffs, maybe click 3 or 4 times. The amount of times you shrink it, not terribly important to the game. So the first thing we did is we got the movement of the mouse. We wanted to move up, down, left, and right. So we're going to make sure we're on our mouse, and we could leave the name as mouse 1. If you want to change the name, and it's really not necessary to have the 1 there since we only have 1 mouse. The cat, we might have cat 1, cat 2, and cat 3 if we decide to have 3 cats, but we just have 1 mouse. I'm just going to take that 1 out of there. So now he's just called mouse. Okay, see how I did that? I hit the I came over here. This is where you could change the name to any name that you want to use, and I went back. Okay, so now it's just called mouse. And I'm going to change cat 2, and I'm going to change cat 2, and I'm going to call him cat 1. Okay, so we can, when we duplicate him, we'll have cat 2 and cat 3. We're not going to do that just yet. So first we'll get the mouse to move, so let's do that. Now the first thing you might notice is the mouse is facing right. And if you remember, we talked about, if we hit this little I, we'll notice that the mouse by default is facing right. 90 degrees is to the right. So you'll notice the mouse is automatically facing right. We want to face him up. So let's do this. Let's go to events and say when our flag is clicked, and let's make this a little bigger. When our flag is clicked, we want to have him pointing up in the beginning of the game. So we want to say point in direction, not 90, but 0 to up. Okay, and that'll point him up whenever you hit the flag. And we also want him to have a good start position. And just for the heck of it, and you don't have to do this, you could add your own background. I'm going to go to New Backgrounds, and I'm going to scroll down to the XY grid again. And I want him to be towards the bottom. If you notice, the lowest Y value would be -180. I don't want him as low as 180. He might actually get cut off like that. What I want them to be is probably maybe like minus 160, and at 0, 0 is right of the center of left and right. Okay, so I'm going to come here to scripts, maybe right here, and let's see what he's reading right now. It's -4, minus 147. That might be okay, maybe a little bit higher. That should be fine. I'm going to grab that out. I'm going to change that -4 to just a 0. That ensures me he's right smack in the middle of the x-axis, which is right in the middle of the left and right. Okay, so that number's fine. If your number's a little different, that's fine too. If you hit the flag now, you'll see that he turns and points up. What's interesting, he doesn't look like he's perfectly centered here. Let's just go into his costume. I'm going to click costumes here, and let's see how he's centered. See, he's a little off center, so I'm going to grab this and make sure he's nicely centered. And now you can see his nose falls right on the line. So if something's not centered, you come here to the center tool and you make sure the center tool, and again you can manipulate this tool just like I'm doing, clicking and holding down your mouse. You can move it and just put it right in the middle of the mouse. Make sure it's cutting the mouse right in half and on both axes, and your mouse should look pretty good. Alright, so there he goes. Now that might have happened when we ended up shrinking the mouse, and that might have caused that that effect. But again, you can always fix that. So there's our mouse. He looks good there, and he's pointing up. And now we can get him to move. So now let's also go to Control, grab out a forever loop, and as I always mention in class, forever means all throughout our game. So all throughout our game, we want to be able to move up, down, left, and right. So we're going to drag out 4 if statements. We're going to say if we're clicking up, if we're clicking down, if we're clicking left, and if we're clicking right. And we're going to stack these. If, and if. Okay? Be very careful that they're stacked just like this. You don't want them inside. These are called nested loops. Okay? The coding wise, you might one day write some code just like this, but in our case we have 4 distinct situations we're checking for, and we need them all independent of each other. Okay, so now we have 4 if statements just like this, and then we're going to go over to sensing, and let's grab out down here where it says key space pressed. Okay, and we're going to drag that out, and we're going to drop it into each of these boxes here. Notice how it lights up. Okay, so there's one. These are hexagons, right? There's 6 sides. Yep, 6 sides. So they're hexagons. So we're going to drop one here, drop one here, drop one here, and drop one here. Now we're not going to keep them a space. We said up, down, left, and right. So we're going to go to each one. We'll go to the first one, and we'll say up arrow. We'll go to the second one, click, and go to down arrow. Point to the third one with a drop down and hit right arrow, and then lastly left arrow. Okay, so when they're pointing up, you want them to point in direction up, and same with down, left, and right. So let's do that next. Let's go to motion. So we're going to say point in direction, and up is going to be 0, so we're going to select 0, and we're going to do the same for the others. Let's just drag them out, and we can do them as we go. And I'm going to zoom out here. Okay, so 0 for my up arrow, down arrow. Okay, so 0 here, up. I'm sorry, down arrow is 180 down. Right arrow stays at 90, and left arrow is going to be minus 90. And all this will do now, if we hit the flag and we hit the arrows, you'll see he'll change direction, just like that. Okay, when we hit the arrow keys, I'm hitting up, right, left, down. Okay, but he's not moving, and because we didn't put a move statement in there, so you could just throw in a move, but we're going to use, not move, but we're going to use something else. So when he moves up, moving up means you're going to change Y. Okay, remember up and down is Y, and if you're moving up, you're changing Y by a positive number. Okay, in this case, we're going to move by 10. If we're going to move down, we're going to change Y, and be careful to use change and not set. Okay, Setting X to 10 will move him somewhere over here. Okay, or setting Y to 10 will move him just here, and he'll stay there. Okay, he's not going to incrementally change by 10. He'll just go to a specific number. So be careful to use change here. Change Y by 10. So on down, we want to do minus 10, because when we move down the Y-axis, we use a negative number. When we're moving to the right, we're going to, again, this time we're on the X-axis, right and left. So we're going to change X by 10 when we move right, and then we're going to change X by minus 10 when we move left. So let's try this now, and we should move up, down, left, and right. You'll also notice too, if you hit, let's say, left and up, he will go diagonally also. This is a little flaw in our code. We're going to leave this for now, and we get more advanced, I'll show you how you can fix this so he will only be able to move precisely up, down, left, and right instead of sideways. But this is a little glitch. Some of you might even like being able to have that special movement in the game. We'll leave it alone for now. Okay, but there is a way we can actually fix that, but not a problem right now. I think that'll just add an extra element to our game, give us some more flexibility. So next, we want the cat to move back and forth. So let's go to our cat 1, and that's all we really have to do for our mouse moving. So let's go to cat 1 now, and the cat is just going to move back and forth, bouncing off the edge. And this is actually pretty simple to do. So for our cat, let's do the same thing we did for the mouse. If you remember, we pointed him in the right direction, and we had him go to X. In this case, our cat's moving on the other, he's moving back and forth on the X-axis. And on the Y-axis, I want him to be 0. I want him centered up and down, right smack in the middle. And then later I might add 2 cats on either side. Alright, so let's go to our cat, and the first thing we want to do, again, go to events and grab out when flag is clicked, and then we want to go to motion, and we're going to point him to the right, so point in direction 90 just to make sure he's pointing to the right when the game starts. And we want a good starting location, so we'll do right about here is good for the cat, and we want him at the 0. So we'll drag this out, and we'll just adjust this Y, make sure Y is 0. Again, that'll put him right in the center of top and bottom. Okay, he was pretty close, but not quite. All right, and let's actually just go make sure we're clicked on our cat. We'll go to costumes, and I'm gonna look at centering. You see our cat's pretty nicely centered, so that looks good. We'll click back to scripts. All right, so now that he's centered, now we just have to make him move back and forth. So we're just going to go to forever, okay, and we're going to tell him to just move, okay. We could just say move 10 steps, and then if on edge, we want him to bounce. And let's see what that does. And that's exactly what we want him to do. Just, it's as simple as that, okay. When he bounces, he'll actually change the direction he's pointing in and move that number of steps. So this is perfect. So now we have a mouse that can move and a cat that can move, but there's one problem. They do not interact, if you notice. So that's the next thing we need to do, and that is called a collision. And collisions, of course, happen in real life, and that's why we have auto insurance. And collisions happen in video games all the time. It's probably the most important thing that happens in video games. Without collisions, you get this situation where you just have characters going through each other. So let's go ahead and hit stop. And one thing I also want you to see, if we stop here and we hit the flag again, you'll notice that our cat and mouse always reset back to the beginning because we did this work back in the beginning of our game. Okay. So next, okay, so what we're going to do now is write in our collision. So the cat is going to collide with the mouse. Now you can do this a couple ways. You could say use the code for the mouse, for the cat, but we're going to be adding a couple more cats, so it'd be easier to do it from the cat's point of view, and then we could duplicate that code later for the collision, and it won't be different since there's only going to be one mouse we catch, so it'll be very easy to code. So we're going to say when the flag is clicked, go to Control and grab out the forever loop again, and we're going to add an if scenario. Basically, if the cat is touching the mouse. And for touching is all part of sensing. It's the very top one. Always remember that. If whenever you're doing a collision, there's your touching. And there, you have a choice of touching color or touching a specific sprite. And we want to do touching a specific sprite. It gives you more accuracy, especially if you're dealing with lots of different colors and characters. Color can actually be very tricky to do. In this case, we're doing the mouse. So let's say if our cat, so we're on our cat and we're saying when the flag is clicked, forever, if we're touching the mouse, we want to, and in this particular case, and we're going to go into special effects in the next video, but for now we're just going to have them both disappear. And to do that, we're just going to go to looks and we're going to hide. Okay. Now, this will only hide the cat. So let's try this out, okay? And we might run into some troubles here. So let's say if our cat hits the mouse, our cat disappears, we could still get to the cheese puffs, which is not exactly how we want our game to be played. But we also want to be able to lose this game too. So there has to be a way for us to communicate the cat. We have another problem too. When we hit the flag, you'll notice that the cat doesn't reappear. So for that to happen, we need the cat to show at the beginning of the game. So we need to grab this show, put it above the forever loop. You can put it in either when flag is clicked. Again, you can have, these are called script blocks, and you can have as many script blocks as you need in a particular game of Scratch, in a particular Scratch game. So here we have two. So you could put a show here, and if you wanted to put a show, since we were doing setup here, it's perfectly fine to put it here too. So now when our game starts again, he starts right from the beginning and reappears, even if he was invisible at the end of the game, okay? And we're probably gonna have to do the same thing for our mouse. Now we need to tell our mouse to disappear too. So to get our mouse to disappear, we need to send a message from our cat to our mouse. And to do that, we use what's called a broadcast. And broadcast can be found in events. Let's go to events. And you'll see here on the bottom, you'll see a couple broadcasts, broadcast message, and wait. We're just going to broadcast a message in this particular case. And we're not going to call it message 1. We want to give it a distinct name. So we're going to hit the drop down next to message 1, click on new message, and we're going to call this one, I'll call this one caught mouse. Okay. Caught mouse. Alright. Now he sends out the message, the cat sends out the message, the mouse has to receive it. So we're going to click on the mouse, and the mouse is going to have a new script block that says, right down here it says, when I receive caught mouse. So when I receive caught mouse, we just want, for now, we're going to have the mouse hide. Okay. And let's see how that goes. Oh, and while we're at it, we might as well grab out a show and put a show here for the mouse, because we always want the mouse to show in the beginning of the game. So let's try that out. And there you go. When they hit each other, you see they both disappear and the game's over. The cheesy puffs remain, but we still don't have a way to win the game either. If I, whoops, let's try that one more time. So if I avoid the cat and get to the cheesy puffs, I don't win either. So I can add some code to my mouse and say if the mouse is touching the cheesy puffs. So we're going to save that for our next lesson. So we're going to do, and that's a good challenge for this week. See if you can figure out and say if the mouse is touching the cheesy puffs. And then we're going to add things like game over, and then we'll duplicate the code for the cat and add a couple more cats and make this more challenging. So that's as far as I want to get today. And I think that's as far as we got in the class. So we're going to end it right here. So go ahead, look over the code, and we'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll try to get this game all wrapped up. We'll even add a game over, and we'll add the collision with the cheesy puffs, and we'll add some special effects when the cat hits the mouse, because just hiding them really isn't exciting. And then we'll also add some sound effects to make the game a little more exciting as well. Alright, so that's it. This is Ken Adelglass, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks. Bye.